This Just In with your host, JustIn Core. This is a streaming show right here on KTVB Plus and YouTube and KTVB.com, where you take a closer, deeper dive into the stories that mean the most to you with the people who bring you those stories. My guest today, well, we're talking about traffic with Aspen Shumpert. Aspen, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here.
Excited to be here.
Oh my. Well, I don't know if I fully believe you, but I thank you for at least saying that. Aspen, we'll talk about traffic and a new development that's really exciting, but may also bring a lot more traffic to West Ada County. First, though, let's talk about you. You grew up in Tacoma.
I did.
How was that?
It's great. Down south, a little south, then Seattle. We were talking earlier if it's like the little sister of Seattle.
Yeah.
I would say yes, but they're also so very different. But I think a lot of time they get like meshed together or like think they're similar, which they really aren't.
Yeah. So I grew up in sort of a little sister town as well. No offense, cover your ears, Meridian, but I grew up in Meridian. And whenever I, traveled outside the state, people would be like, "Oh, where are you from?" It's like, Meridian. They're like, "We don't know where that is." Meridian, Alabama? No. And so I'd have to say Boise. Do people ever like Tacoma? Now, where's that?
Yeah, I think I resort to just saying I'm from Seattle, or I say like the Seattle area.
Seattle area.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Don't want to cast too many aspersions on your actual hometown. Any fun Tacoma stories?
Yeah, so I grew up there, went to Stadium High School, which I might be biased, but I think it's one of the most famous high schools in the country. If you've ever seen the movie 10 Things I Hate About You.
See, you told me this, and I'm like, that high school, that could be the most famous high school in the country. It was filmed there.
It was filmed there. It gets a lot of people thinking, it looks like a castle or Hogwarts, which is very true. It does look like that, but I see it as like where 10 Things I Hate About You was filmed. And it looks so different now. The outside looks completely the same. But the inside, like, I know I'm like, oh, that room's not there. Or like, that's not where the principal is, certain things like that. But that's probably my cool hometown fact.
Still really cool. What a movie as well. I asked you like, hey, you ever seen it?
Many times. That is like a comfort movie for sure. I watch it all the time.
Oh, it's great. I realized just a few years ago that it's based on Taming the Shrew by Shakespeare. And I felt kind of dumb. But not only do you rewatch it a lot, I guess they have showings there, right?
Yeah, every summer, which is a newer thing. Like this didn't happen when I was in high school, but like the last 5 years, they've done it where they put the movie on the big screen down in the bowl, which is our football field, like you see in the movie.
You see it in the movie, absolutely, yes.
And they show it on the anniversary of the movie. They've done it, I think, the last 5 years, and I've been able to catch it, I think, 2 or 3 times. But I mean, thousands of people go and watch it. I think it's a way for the school to fundraise for sure. Because people pay a ticket to get in, the concessions, all of the things, and it's like great summer weather. The sun is setting, the water's right there. So it's a great event, and people who like didn't even go to school there, or like I've talked to people who even were like down in Portland, and they were like, I love this movie. This is so great that you guys are showing it in the bowl. And so people also travel to see it. So fun event.
And then you went to a university called Washington State, which I think is actually in Idaho, right? It's right down the road from Moscow.
It is, but technically it's Pullman. So just on the other side of the border, but they're so close. Like the University of Idaho and Washington State are so close. But big Coug fan, big Coug family. My dad went there. My brother went there.
Awesome.
So we love the Cougs. A little harsh for me this season. My first in Boise.
So you love the Cougs except when they're playing Boise State, right?
Yeah.
And I can say that as a Boise State grad myself. How'd you find yourself in Boise here on KTVB?
I had this area on my mind even when I was still in college thinking, what's going to be next. I did go home after college and spent some time at our sister station, King 5 in Seattle.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And did a little bit reporting down at my hometown newspaper for a few years. So after that, I was like, okay, maybe I'm ready to bounce somewhere else. And actually, there's been quite a few people I know that have come through this station. My college professor, Matt Lovelace, he's been here. Him and Jay were roommates in college.
Jay Tust, that's right.
Yeah. And
Jay
then,
Tust probably has some stories, and Matt probably has some stories about Jay as well.
Yeah. And then Andrew Bartline and Abby Davis, we were all in the same college program, so I knew them.
Yeah.
So that's easy to also get the real rundown on a place when you know some people that have been here.
Yeah, a lot of people here went through Washington State. They're sort of our Iowa Cubs for our Chicago Cubs, except that we're a little better than the Cubs. Sorry, Cubs fans. And now you're on the 208.
I'm on the 208.
Yeah, one of the more unique, probably most unique, really shows we have.
Yeah.
On our air. What's that like?
That show's a beast, and there's so much work that goes into that show, and I truly do love being on that team. It's a lot of collaboration, a lot of talking through what is the show going to look like today, making sure it flows well. We're diving a little deeper into topics some days. So it's been great. I've done an array of stories, which I feel like is one of the things I like about this job is you're trying to be an expert on literally different things every single day.
Yeah. Well, speaking of stories that you've done, the fun stuff, traffic. You had a story Monday night about traffic.
Yep.
Set that up for us.
Yeah, so we took a little look at commute times, which I know KTV has done multiple times because it's a hot topic. Traffic is a hot topic here. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of looked and gave an update on what those times are looking like right now, specifically from Caldwell to Boise, from Nampa to Boise, and from Meridian to Boise. Mm-hmm. And we did pinpoint specific locations in those areas to kind of, stay on the right path of numbers and such, because Meridian, you could choose many different locations, and people are located differently, and your commute time might look a little different depending how far you are from the highway. So we kind of pinpoint like where people are getting on the highway in Meridian, Nampa, and Caldwell.
Okay.
And we talked to Compass and kind of asked, are commute times changing?
Right.
And yes, over like the last 10 years, for sure. They've seen that increase. The last 5, they haven't changed too much, Compass says. And they really they go by 5 years. So they really do that comparison every 5 years and can kind of look at if things are changing.
Yeah, alrighty. Well, we don't want to give too much of it away.
Okay.
So let's, Ani, go ahead and roll that, and then we'll see you on the other side.
3, 2, 1.
It's no secret, Idaho's population is growing.
Since about the 2020 census, we've added over 95,000 people to Ada and Canyon counties. So that puts us at around 820,000 people in the Treasure Valley.
And more people means more drivers are hitting the road, contributing to rising traffic volumes statewide.
I think it's fair to say adding 95,000 people to the area is going to add more traffic to the roads.
According to the U.S. Census, Interstate 84 has seen a 32% increase of drivers from 2010 to 2023. Still, drive times haven't changed much, according to Compass Principal Planner Hunter Mulhall. Compass stands for the Community Planning Association of Southwest Idaho.
We don't see a lot of the average travel time on the interstate fluctuating over the last few years. However, what we have seen is more days where there's an accident or an event that really slows down or throws a wrench in traffic.
6:49, let's take a look at your traffic now. Things getting busier and slower out there on the interstate.
Compass says reports show
Traffic backs up on I-84 during the peak morning hours of 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and again around 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. In Caldwell, Compass says the drive on I-84 from Centennial Way to downtown Boise is about 34 minutes at 7 a.m. The drive home, around 5, is about 37 minutes. The Nampa commute from Northside Boulevard to downtown Boise takes about 25 minutes and 29 minutes on the way back. Lastly, the drive from Meridian Road exit to downtown Boise is about 12 minutes in the morning, but 17 minutes to commute home.
Depending on how far away you live from the interstate and the on-ramps, your commute times may change. Depending on what route you're using too. We're talking about some of those areas that have experienced a lot of growth. There's going to be a lot more traffic.
It changes if there's an accident or an event that day, but Compass says where development is, traffic follows.
Where more people are living and we're building more homes, we're seeing more cars. And so those areas are right now, like Meridian is one of the fastest growing cities. Meridian has over 25,000 new people since 2020.
And one of those areas is 10 Mile Road in Meridian.
What we're seeing is 7 to 8 a.m. is the highest volumes going to the interstate, so southbound on 10 Mile. And then in the PM hour, 4 to 6 o'clock, heading northbound on 10 Mile is some of the heaviest traffic. And then we're definitely starting to see more congestion build around the on-ramp in the morning.
ACHD has given 10 Mile Road a service level F grade, meaning drivers already experience notable congestion at different times of the day. And with a large project, known as the District at 10 Mile, bringing 222 acres of dining, retail, and housing to 10 Mile Road, ACHD Development Services Manager Christy Little says that road could get even more congested.
It will generate a lot of traffic, and it is anticipated to impact 10 Mile Road. But 10 Mile is built out to its ultimate configuration. ACHD and the city don't have any plans to widen the road. So the developer they've designed their site to have internal roadways so that if you're going from the east side of the site to the west side of the site, you do that internal. You don't have to go out on 10 Mile and around on Franklin. That will certainly help.
Little says the developer of the project, Alquist Development, was not required to complete a regional traffic study in order for the project to be approved by the city.
About 15 years ago, the city went through their planning area, the 10 Mile specific area plan, and a regional traffic analysis was done for that plan. And as the city has seen development applications come in, if the applications conform to the land uses that were assumed in the 10 Mile specific area plan, then we haven't required a traffic impact study specific to that development because that information was already captured.
The project is twice the size of the Village at Meridian, a similar retail and dining concept off North Eagle Road.
We know we can kind of compare it to the Village, and we've seen those impacts. There will be a lot of traffic generated by this development.
Another thing to mention is the Highway 16 extension, which is expected to be done around the end of 2026. ACHD says with that extension, it will give north and south travelers another opportunity other than 10 Mile Road. Currently, 10 Mile Road has a lot of traffic signals and a lot of destinations. So once that expansion is complete, traffic is likely to shift to the west of State Highway 16, potentially relieving some of that 10 Mile traffic.
Aspen, heck of a job, and through the magic of television editing, here you are
right
again. Aspen, really fascinating story there. A lot of people love to hear about traffic, love to talk about traffic. Why do you think that is?
Well, because everyone's a part of it.
Yeah.
Everyone is traffic. If they don't want to believe it or not, that's the reality. You know, you had said, like, it's kind of like weather. Everyone wants to know about it, especially if you are someone that commutes every day. Yeah. You're going to want to know what's changing. Are projects going to affect that? Do I need to prepare next year for it to be X amount, longer? Yeah. So I think it's a hot topic, and traffic comes with change, and Idaho is changing.
Idaho is changing. I do a weekly segment, Growing Idaho, and a lot of other people do Growing Idaho segments. And that's all about change. And what I hear from, current residents, even people who maybe moved here just a few years ago, is like, oh, I don't want it to change. And it's like,
it's coming. It's happening.
I don't
It's
know
going
what
to
to
keep
tell you.
happening.
Yeah.
And change is hard. Change is really hard.
Yeah.
I'm someone who doesn't like change. You get used to being in a routine, having your routine.
Yes.
And so when it's changing not on your terms, it's hard.
And when you got to add a bunch of commute time to it,
Yeah.
it's even worse. Although, according to your numbers there, we've seen about a 32% increase in drivers on I-84 since
Yeah.
2010. The road is also expanded, though.
Yeah.
Do you think that plays a factor in the fact that actually drive times haven't gotten much longer? They've gone up a bit, but really not as much as you might expect.
Yeah, definitely. When I heard that number of, we've seen a 32% increase specifically on I-84,
Yeah.
I expected them to then next say, and traffic has, added much more time to commute times. But
Yeah.
when you take in, expansions and time of day
Right.
and events or accidents,
Right.
that plays a role in it too. But I do think the expanding and looking at different areas, different roads, different interstates, can we expand this, plays a role in commute times for sure. So I do think that's helped.
And I am no infrastructure expert, but I've talked to people who talked about like expanding I-84, and some said in some spots you might be able to add like one lane, but that's about it. And you just think about what's along I-84 there now. You have Topgolf, you have the hospital there just along the Eagle interchange, and so many businesses. You have a bunch of homes already there between Boise and that Eagle exit, and more now headed out toward Meridian.
Well,
So
and that's
you
the
probably
thing
can't
too,
expand it much.
is some areas you can't expand.
Yeah.
So you're stuck to looking at other ways maybe that road could improve. But
Yeah.
we've run into a few other traffic projects like State Street they're expanding in certain areas on that street. And how much can they expand? Because
Right.
there's businesses there. There's signs in the way that are
Yeah.
coming down,
Homes,
So
yeah.
the expanding is definitely an interesting
And I mean,
part.
some places just not feasible. You talked about 10 Mile.
Yeah.
Told us it got an F from ACHD.
Yeah.
I mean, can't get much worse than that. Although
Yeah.
it might with this new development at 10 Mile.
Yeah, ACHD looked at that road and gave it a service level F grade, which means drivers are already experiencing buildup and congestion at certain times of the
Right.
day. And it is a hot spot. That is one of the fastest growing areas in Meridian, according to Compass and ACHD. And it's built out to its almost capacity.
See, that's the thing that really shocked me when I heard them say it. It's like, well, it's built out. Like, that's
Yeah.
as big as it's going to get. So
They're
if
not going to expand that road. That is what it is going to be. And so when you're putting big projects on either side of it, it's going to have some traffic impacts.
Yeah, you think. So, all right, I'm going to age myself a little bit here. Growing up, I grew up about a mile from Eagle Road. Back then, when dinosaurs roamed the Treasure Valley, Eagle Road was, believe it or not, a two-way highway going each way. It's still certainly a highway, but it is right now the absolute worst way to get anywhere.
Yeah.
It used to be how you got from the interstate to Highway 55, running up north. That's a terrible idea now. And you have that huge, you have developments all along it. Businesses, all that. You also have the Village right there at the busiest intersection in the state, Eagle and Fairview. And now you're putting something, or Tommy Allenquist is, twice the size of the Village.
Yeah.
On 10 Mile there, right off the interstate.
And I asked ACHD, I said, could 10 Mile turn into the next Eagle Road?
Yeah.
And, they said it's not there yet, but it is possible it could get there for sure. And that project is very large. It is twice the size of the Village. And yes, well, maybe not everyone, but I like to shop, I like to dine, go to the movies. It's awesome to have something like that.
I think you were right. I think a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
And I think that people living in that area, I mean, my mom used to live out in that area. She absolutely loved the village. She
Yeah.
was there almost every day because it was so cool, and it felt like just sort of almost like a European street. You got shops here and restaurants here.
The outside flow, you know,
Yes.
it is very enjoyable.
Cool idea. The problem is, like, they already have parking problems at
Yeah.
the village and, you know, traffic issues around there. Now, again, something twice as big. But you also said the developer didn't do a traffic study. Is that correct?
Yeah, they weren't required to do one. And I believe it was last month. I actually interviewed Tommy Ahlquist about that and asked him about that. And he explained why. And then we get a little further with this week's story of why didn't they? And ACHD explained that about 15 years ago there was a regional traffic study done.
Yeah.
And if projects coming in kind of line up with the city's plan and land use developments, a project isn't required to do an additional traffic study. And so that's what we ran into with this new project.
And I mean, it makes some sense that it's like, look, we did a study 15 years ago. We said if a project like this happened, traffic would get awful. Now a project like this is happening, and they're like, it's not going to surprise anybody if traffic gets awful.
Yeah, and you can compare this project to the village. It's very similar. You know, Tommy Ahlquist said they talked to the developers who developed the village and kind of bounced ideas off each other. You know, it is a similar project. ACHD said we can look at that project and know there will be traffic impacts with the district at 10 Mile, the Ahlquist development project.
I mean, do you think it's going to, well, first, do you think the Highway 16 extension, which is essentially connecting, I mean, Emmett to Star to State to Chinden to the interstate, do you think that's going to help people who are not necessarily driving to Meridian or to this development, just trying to get through the area?
I think it could.
Yeah.
I think everything is a lot of assumptions.
Right.
But I do think it could, and ACHD thinks it could too. You know, they expect drivers to shift onto Highway 16. It gives north and south drivers another option than having to use 10 Mile. But 10 Mile also has a lot of destinations.
Right.
You know, so I'm not sure how much relief it will give and if drivers will shift over.
Yeah.
It's kind of a wait and see.
And there's a ton of growth over there. I mean, I used to, how long has it been? Maybe 10, 15 years I used to live over that way. And there was like nothing. And now that's where all of the new subdivisions, all of the new homes, the businesses, you know, huge headquarters like this is going. Shields is right by there.
And that was earlier this year that opened.
Yeah. And I guess partially it's a plus that it's right next to the interstate, which is the biggest road in our area.
Right.
So if
for
anything,
developers, it's great. That's where they want to be.
Yeah.
And that's what Tommy Ahlquist said when I interviewed him. I was like, why did you choose here? And he was like, because of the growth.
Right. They want to be where the people are, which makes sense. And Compass had their Communities in Motion 2050 plan, talks about focusing developments closer to population centers. Does this work with that, considering this huge development there that Ahlquist has is also going to have some housing in it?
Yeah, that is true. They will have some housing, and it's going to be, you know, shopping, dining, housing, all of that. They also will have some internal roadways.
Okay.
That could also help with that. ACHD and I talked about that of, you know, once they're in, they don't have to go back out on 10 Mile to get to the other side. There's going to be some, you know, internal roadways to get to one side of this project to the other. And again, it's 222 acres. So that's a lot of space.
That's a lot of acreage.
Yeah. And that area is growing population-wise for sure as well. We've heard concerns of overcrowding in schools and, of course, the traffic concerns too. So I think one word to describe that area is growth. And
but again, I grew up over there, grew up in West Ada, so like they've been growing since 1990. It seemed like every school, even when the schools were brand new, they were overcrowded. So I guess let's put a button on traffic, if you don't mind. I've done some stories on this as well. Sort of my thesis statement was, look, it's bad and it's gonna get worse, and I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I don't know if I...
Do you have a more positive outlook, please?
See, because I didn't grow up here, and I grew up in the Seattle area, I hear it's bad here. And I'm like, but it could be so much worse. Like, I hear traffic, or like, you know, I sit in maybe 10 minutes of traffic, and that is nothing to me. Yeah. Granted, but I understand the change here. So for people who didn't used to not have any traffic to now having quite a bit of traffic, totally. Yeah. That's hard. But dare I say, I don't think it's too bad because I'm used to sitting in hours of traffic.
And that's great perspective. Yeah, if you're new to the area, you're coming from LA, Seattle, you know, even Portland, you know, back east, you're right. If your normal commute time is 2 hours and here now it's an hour, it's like, awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, love it. So, yeah. Good
but this area is seeing increases in it. So it's two different perspectives.
I think that people don't want it to get that bad, and they're worried that it could.
Yeah. And being that bad isn't fun. You know, no. I don't want it to get that bad here either. No. I would love for it to not get that bad.
See if you can fix that. But finally,
I'll check into that.
on this JustIN, we've talked a lot about hair recently. On this JustIN with Joe, with Brenda, your hair is iconic as well.
Yes.
Really spectacular. How long does it take?
Depends on the day. But like upkeep is longer than maybe the normal person's hair routine, I would say.
Okay, so like, mine takes about 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
How much more than that?
Maybe double for the day of, but like
that's not bad at all.
Day one hair is like a lot entailed in that.
Okay, day one hair.
Yeah, like
hour, 2 hours.
No, not if I wear it natural. I, you know, will get out of the shower and style it with specific products, and that I would say maybe like that takes maybe 30 minutes to like lock in what it's gonna be for the week. And then, like, every day after that, it's pretty minimal. But if I'm straightening my hair, that's a whole different beast, which I've straightened it a few times on there. So maybe some people have caught it. But that is hours.
Hey, you be you, girl. You keep those curls.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Aspen, thank you for your time.
Thanks
really
for having
appreciate it. If you got any comments, questions, concerns, maybe hair tips, from the great Aspen Shumpert, or me. I got good hair too. You can text us that at 208-321-5614. Use the hashtag JustIN or JustIN. Works either way.
It does.